I can't resist just one last thing here before I go. I have become a collector of jokes that I can absolutely establish are told among the Soviet citizens. They tell them to each other and reveals they've got a great sense of humor, but also they've got a pretty good sense of realism about their government. This one happens to do, I was mentioning about the Berlin Wall and why it must come down. This is a story that is told in East Germany about that wall. It seems that their leader, Mr. Honecker, was attracted to a very lovely young lady, and he was making all sorts of promises. And then she said, well, all I want is, I want the wall to be torn down. And he said, the wall to... Oh, he said, I know. You want to be alone with me. I haven't told that one to Secretary General Gorbachev yet, but I will. General Secretary Gorbachev talks about perestroika, or restructuring at home. Well, it's time for some perestroika in the Warsaw Pact. It's time for the removal of Soviet troops from Eastern Europe and the abandonment of Soviet offensive strategy on the continent. On my last trip to Europe, I went to Berlin and visited that infamous wall that cuts such an ugly scar through the heart of Europe. The wall that encircles the free sectors of that city is part of a vast system of barriers, of barbed wire, guard towers, dog runs, and machine guns that divides the continent, divides nations, peoples, and families. For years, especially in the 70s, the cognoscenti spoke of the so-called superpower conflict in value-neutral terms, as if there was no essential difference between Western democracies and Soviet communism. Any suggestion that a system that denies its people their God-given liberties was fundamentally evil was met with ridicule. Well, I challenge those people to go to Berlin and look upon that wall, look upon the works of tyranny. The question can be asked, how can we ever achieve a lasting peace with a regime that is so scared of its own people that it must imprison them behind barbed wire? And that's why I said to Mr. Gorbachev, if you really want glasnost, if you really want openness, tear down that wall. We would be called upon to match the magnanimity of the Marshall Plan with the tough realism and determination of Nato. Today, Nato has kept the peace in Europe and helped keep America secure for 40 years. 8 presidents from both parties with strong bipartisan support from Congress and the American people have shown a clear resolution to our adversaries. A free and democratic Europe is essential to a free and democratic America. We have let there be no doubt in the Soviets' minds. An attack on free Europe would be the same as an assault on the United States. The core of our foreign policy and of our national security is our permanent partnership with our fellow democracies in the Atlantic Alliance, on which the cause of freedom so critically depends. We will never sacrifice the interests of our allies and friends in any agreement with the Soviet Union.